in there, they send a weekly update, and they're really, MTA's kind of amping up the pressure about contacting local legislatures. Of course, we approved our resolution supporting local control at our special meeting, and that got sent out, but they're kind of taking a strong stance, and they're actually, MTA said that they're gonna be posting a resolution that can be adopted as well, so it kind of seems to have kind of caught fire a little bit, but I just thought that was worthy of noting. So that is all I have for supervisor's report. And we'll go into old business, and I'm gonna be honest, there was a whole lot of other fires to put out, and I haven't spent any more time. I will, on the policies for purchasing accounts payable tax disbursements, I know we tabled them. I'm open to what you guys wanna do, but I'd kinda like to table it and again, for a future meeting. Unless anybody has spent a lot of time, I would feel bad that if anybody's opposed to that. You good, Todd?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
good. I'm just curious on the computers, that being old business, is that any more update on the new computers?
Oh, yeah, Todd, mentioned that, he wrote the check and that they're back ordered.
They're back ordered
Yeah.
now.
So, yeah, hopefully, maybe goal by the end of the month, we could have him out here to get those installed, so. Okay, then if we're good with tabling that, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, there's too much other stuff. So on to new business, so we added barn dominiums, that would be our first thing. And if you recall, so, Zane Aberger was here at the last meeting and gave a public comment about how he had contacted Dave, who had told him correctly that, the way, some things that we have in our ordinance, which I gave you guys all a copy of it in the materials, where the highlights are items 3 and 4 of section 3.24. For whatever reason, we put something in about foundations, and the planning commission also, Zane went to their meeting and talked to them about it, and Dave jumped in, but they basically said that, why do we even have this in here? We haven't been policing it in the past, and it's, from what the research I've done, it's fairly common for townships not to police construction-related codes. We're concerned about setbacks, we're concerned about minimum square footage, and for whatever reason, this has been in there, and again, it's not on our application to ask about foundations, and there have been other barn dominiums, which that term is used a little loosely. They can look very different, but anyhow, the highlights of what I gave you, the planning commission brought this up too, but on each one of those criterias that deal with foundation, it says, the first one, the building inspector may permit a lesser requirement based on soil condition, building type, topography, and any other relevant factor. And then in the next one, building inspector may allow an alternative building plan to be utilized if consistent with the approved construction code of the township. We don't have our own construction code. They gotta go through Montcalm County, and that's pretty common, from what I've heard. I talked to the building inspector at Montcalm County. I called up to Canadian Lakes, Morton Township. They do their own building inspection in the township up there. I talked to him, and I also, seeing these clauses, I contacted the attorney and asked her, because these are going up all over the county, they're very common, can we as a board, since we are, we oversee Dave and Dave is responsible for enforcement, can we, knowing that the planning commission is going to be changing this, and lumping it all into those public hearings, can we basically say, direct Dave that, this gives us flexibility here, to say, follow Montcalm County, So, I asked her, is that doable? And she says, yes, it is. It's obviously case by case. This is a unique scenario. But we know the planning commission's gonna change it. We know we already rely on the county building department's requirements. And she said, we can authorize Dave to issue permits for this residential pole construction or post frame buildings, as long as they follow the requirements of Montcalm County, which requires sealed prints and like I said, I talked to the building inspector over there, and that they meet all the other requirements. The biggest one being minimum habitable living space or square footage, which I think it's like 850 in the ag, and so it's in there, you know, what.
Yeah, did our attorney say I can do that right now as of tonight?
If we vote as a board, and she wanted it memorialized in the minutes, if we go ahead and I kind of typed up how I think it should read. And then, also, I feel like, again, after talking to the guy up in Canadian Lakes, that for this kind of interim solution until the planning commission gets it fixed, we would only allow this in the ag res in the rural residential district, not in residential suburban, which would be Honeymoon Heights and around the lake, because that can get a little more tricky, because, you know, it is a plat and lot size, and, he said up to Canadian Lakes, there's a ton of different associations, and he'll go through the building inspector, zoning guy, and he will approve it. You know, you met everything else, but you need to go, similar to what we say now, you need to go to the association and make sure you meet, their restrictions on, you know, whatever they may be. So that would be, I guess, something I want the board to consider tonight. Zane Aberger has filed a application with the zoning board of appeals, but that's not where it belongs. Putting our ZBA in a real awkward position.
Didn't you tell me, or somebody told me last week, that the county, Buckham County has their own barndominium specs that you have to go by?
I don't know if it's like officially specs for a barndominium, but it's the construction code, and one of their things is to require a sealed print, mainly because of looking at the poles to make sure that they're not gonna shift, and has to have the egress windows and blah, 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 so, yeah.
If you read a motion.
Yeah, I have written something up, I'll give this to you, but, so here's I guess, make sure I say this right. I am going to make a motion that we adopt, the following authorization. So, Cato Township authorizes the zoning administrator to waive section, I'll give this to you, 3.24, letter A, items 3 and 4 for residential pole construction or post frame homes in the ag residential and rural residential districts until such time as these regulations may be amended by the planning commission. The waiver is contingent upon zoning applications meeting all other requirements of the Cato Township zoning ordinance, including but not limited to minimum habitable square footage, and obtaining all required permits from the Montcalm County Building Department. Is there support for that?
I support that.
Okay, motion's been made and supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, let's do roll call just because it's kind of a bigger deal. Clark Hubbard, yes. Burnwald?
Yes.
Lincoln?
Yes.
Reeser? Yes. Motion carries 4-0. I'll give this to
Yep,
you
thank you.
to kind of, and she just said, let's memorialize it in the minutes.
Yep.
And also, let's give, Zane Aberger, I will contact him, but Joyce, you have his check. We have not cashed it because we haven't scheduled anything. So, we're gonna give that back to him.
Is that just ag?
What?
Is that just an
No,
ag
it's,
district?
the way I read it was ag and rural residential, but not rural suburban at this time. Maybe you guys come up with something, there's gonna be more to consider. I will contact Zane, and then this has been coming up a lot. I had another call today on it. I had a guy that was very angry the other day as well, so, I think this is the right move.
I had one today too, new one, so.
Okay, so now Dave, yes, you are, as long as they meet everything else.
Okay.
Okay, master plan. So you guys have in my pile 2 things. The first one is, and these both came from the attorney, resolution approving the draft master plan amendment for distribution. So the way this process shakes out for the master plan is the planning commission works with the planner, as they've been doing, gets a draft, which was all emailed to you guys on, Saturday, I think I sent that. And, what we have to do as a board is approve this to be distributed, and published on the website for the public to look at. And it gets sent to multiple different, bodies. They're all listed out in this resolution that the attorney provided. I think it has to go to like utilities and neighboring, the village for sure. So, and that starts the clock on 63 days to comment, before you can hold your public hearing. And, what the plan is, as far as what I understand, Dave, again, jump in here, is we as a board are gonna approve this for distribution through this resolution this evening. And then Phil and the planner, Danielle, are gonna come to our November meeting, and if we have any questions or comments, to bring up, so that's the plan. And, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we approve this resolution, approving the draft master plan amendment for distribution. Is there support for that? Okay, motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So, between you and me, we'll get that posted on the website for the public. But Danielle, my understanding, she's gonna take care of sending it to all these, whoever needs it. Okay, and then our job now is to come up with any questions before November. If we have, questions for
There's
them.
a lot of information, if you haven't looked at it, there's a lot of good information.
It's pretty,
She's done good.
yeah, she seems to be real good at explaining stuff, and she'll be here in November, so let's ask our questions of her, while we got her time. And then the second resolution, this is something that I was reading, so master plan all comes from the zoning enabling, or planning enabling act, one of the two. And we have a hard time because, records have been, I guess, incomplete, going back to the old board and stuff. We as a township need to make sure that we have adopted a resolution asserting our right to final approval of the master plan. And this will be, this resolution of Township Board asserting the right to approve or reject the master plan. We approve this tonight, this will be good for eternity. But otherwise, technically, a planning commission could do final approval, but because we are ultimately the ones responsible to the citizens, or the elected officials, the attorney said we should have this on file too. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we approve, the resolution of the Township Board asserting the right to approve or reject the master plan. Is there support for that?
Support.
Okay, motion's been made and supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. That takes care of that. Next item in your package from me is, the fee schedule, which we've been kicking this down the road for a while. And currently, for variances and special land uses, it's $200. Well, I've laid out the cost of what it costs the township to put on a variance, hearing. So for our zoning board of appeals members, it's $175, for their fees, and then zoning administrator shows up at these, $50, recording secretary, $25, newspaper, so for this last one we did, it was $96. Well, now we're gonna be putting it in 2 newspapers, and hopefully we can keep that contained. We're gonna try to cut those down a little bit, wording wise. And then we have to do our mailings to all the neighbors, and then we have all the printing and use of the facility, so that's what that, admin fee I put on there. I saw that the Village of Lakeview does that. So, before that, our costs are $380, and we're only charging $200, so we're paying to put on these hearings now. So I'm proposing for the zoning board of appeals variance that we up that to $400, and that is in line with, let's see, so Winfield, they bumped theirs up to they bumped everything $350 for special land use rezoning. They have ZBA special meetings at $250, but clearly that's not enough, with our cost. Belvedere charges $500 for a ZBA special meeting. Pearson is $450, and these were just ones I could find online, so we're in the ballpark. So I would propose that for, now the zoning board of appeals can hear a variance, they can hear an appeal or an interpretation, so I'd keep all those the same. And then off to the right, special land uses, this would be at the planning commission and rezoning applications, so $275 for them, zoning administrator $50 to be fee there. Recording secretary, $25, newspaper, the same, I put $125, $5 for mailing, and then admin fee, $20. So I would propose $500 for them. And then we have, back off to the left again, other proposed fees. So are we currently, we changed land divisions to 50, but are we still $40, Dave, for a zoning permit?
For, a zoning permit 40, yeah.
Okay, I would propose we put, for ag and residential, we put that up to 50 to match our land division. For commercial and industrial, we don't get that very often, but there's a lot more there, and maybe, so I just put 150 on that, but there could be more. We may need to revisit that in the future. We've gotten several requests for signage out on 46, and I think that could be okay at the zoning permit, $50. Site plan reviews is another thing that could come up. I put $350 on that. And temporary use permits for like, you wanna use your camper while you're renovating your house, I'd put 50 on that as well. And then, of course, we've already done the approved fees for the land division. So, anybody have any questions or comments before we hopefully get this?
On the site plan review, you said, I don't know if you said 250 or 350, is that on top of, say if somebody wants to rezone the property, okay, you might end up running into a lot of, homework for everybody going out and having a site plan review. You don't wanna just rezone something, it might affect the next time, wouldn't it, or not, maybe not.
For the site, yeah, I just, are you saying you think there could be more work on a site plan review?
For rezoning, yeah, you might run into a site plan review, wouldn't you?
Well,
Or not?
I guess I was thinking that all get baked into, up in the top right, we have special land use and rezonings.
Oh,
Would be
okay.
$500, so I guess that would probably include the site plan review,
Okay,
but does that sound more reasonable?
yeah, that would be okay.
But if you had an instance where you just had to do a site plan review, I knocked $150 off the other one. It's
Yeah.
kind of in the middle, so. But clearly we have to cover our costs on behalf of the taxpayers.
Yep.
So, nobody else has any comments, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the new proposed fees as presented on the sheet, to go into effect, upon approval. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Motion's been made and supported, any further discussion?
Property line adjustment, like, how does that affect, like, how do we make that change, like, do we have to go to get a survey and then?
I think it falls under the land division rule, it's kind of like all lumped into that category, but it could be something, actually, I think we were asked originally, like, when Marcy took over the job, there was somebody in the village that had an issue and had to adjust their property line, and it has to be kind of treated like a division, so to speak, but it's more of a correction. But there's work involved, and the assessor's gotta get the new legal description, basically, so yeah, we got some.
But that falls back onto the homeowner, right? That he'd have to get a survey and get his own
Correct.
description.
That'd be correct.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so, okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. First, I put mid-year, I was not thinking clearly. First quarter budget review, in amendment, so we've had July, August, September. I'm gonna propose that we table part of this. I do have an amendment in front of you to bring our ARPA spending up to, where we're at, but as I was going through the budget to actual that Todd had provided in your packets, and then after talking to Todd, QuickBooks is not complete through end of September, because you guys haven't got together yet and done your reconciliation. So I'd ask that if we could get that done for the next meeting, so that we can make sure
We don't have a statement yet to reconcile against, so.
well, September's not done. Oh, let's see. I'm sorry, August is not done. You gave me, QuickBooks has been reconciled through July.
No, I think we did August, last month.
Well, I don't know, I couldn't print it off QuickBooks, so I don't know. I don't think we did.
Okay, we'll figure it out, but
Yeah, so,
I'm pretty sure we did it last month, but
okay, cause I
sometimes
had asked,
QuickBooks don't save, cause that computer's old, so
okay.
that could've been it.
Cause yeah, I asked for a copy of the bank rec and the most recent available was July. So I was thinking it would be August, I realized you guys wouldn't have the statement. But yes, so for our next meeting, if you guys can get together and get it done through September,
Mhm.
then we can do a little bit more analysis here. But I think we do know what our ARPA spending has been and, so, actually, it's the last item in your packet from me, it's got yellow highlight on it. Yep, so that kinda goes along with this amendment, resolution to amend the 23-24 budget. So you'll notice in that table in the middle, so we have our income that we budgeted for federal ARPA funds was $7,500. That was for the assessor, hiring a contractor to get those desk reviews caught up, I think that was $3,300. And, it should be noted on that other sheet in the detail of what we spent. And also, the security system, I think it was 4,100, 4,200, but that's roughly where we get to the 7,500. And, now we need to look at what else we've spent of ARPA and bring that revenue in to offset our expenses that we've already paid. And in the expense category there, so we have our two categories that were affected, the township board category and culture and recreation, which we didn't budget anything for that has to do with the trail. So the $6,636.90, that is for Big E Technologies for the computers, because we said at the last meeting that we were gonna use ARPA funds for that. Now if we end up getting that park plan grant, we'll probably have to change that, but for now, let's get it on there. And then the 2061, going back to that other sheet, that is our spending this year on the trail for Village of Lakeview. I believe it's the 1729 on July 26th, and the 332.40 that was on our October bills tonight. So again, we're bringing in the revenue to offset our expenses, so our budget, doesn't look messed up. So that's what I'm proposing, to amend the budget. So I'll go ahead and make that motion that we adopt this resolution for the ARPA amendments. Is there support on that?
Support.
Okay, motion's been made and supported. Any further discussion or questions from anybody? Does that make sense what we're doing? Let's do a roll call vote on this, just because it's affecting our budget. Burnwald?
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes. Lincoln?
Yes.
Reeser?
Yes.
Motion carried. And we'll pick up the budget to actual review at our next meeting. And then sticking with that ARPA spreadsheet, so all the detail of what we've spent in fiscal year 22, 23, and 24 is on the right side. Plus at the bottom, what we still have commitments out there for. So we started with $7,500 for trail engineering. That's down by my records to $416.92. Now those yellow highlights up above, I'm gonna need Todd and maybe Joyce to do some digging on our fiscal year 2022 spending, because our auditor in our statements said we spent $3,586, and I don't have that detail. But there's about $1,106 that I don't know to match her number. I know the items that Todd had provided a spreadsheet a while back, so we'll need to do some digging on that. But so anyways, $416 roughly. Again, we need to verify that left for trail engineering. We have the $50,000 committed for the trail, and then there's about $1,700 and some change for the assessor contractor left. So we've got about $52,000 in commitments. So total ARPA that we've received was $234,430.69 up in that top left. We've spent $138,640, and we're still committed to spend $52,168. So I'm showing we have a balance currently of $43,628. So, and again, we want to confirm those yellow highlights, but that's what we have. And then I hand wrote on there things that we've all kind of thrown out over the past few meetings, kind of in three categories. We had community center, equipment, office equipment, And, cemetery also, I threw some items on there, so I guess my ask of you guys is to, you know, kind of look these over, if there's anything else that we think, and at next few meetings, let's try to prioritize this and, maybe get going on some projects or something.
Satellite road.
What's that?
Satellite road, I said the last one, no, the.
That could be,
Yes.
okay, so yeah, let's add that as number 4 category roads. So we'll push ARPA down the road.
When do we have to have that spent on?
April 24. Well, it has to be committed.
Yeah, committed.
Spent by 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get everything in new business? Okay, I think that concludes new business, so unless, any other comments before we go into public comment from the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and do our second public comment session. Anybody?
Good job.
All right, thanks. All right, we'll close that up, and is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Motion's been made and supported to adjourn.